this is like the golden era prime example. 1932, Martin 017. This one's real rare because it's shaded back, sides, front. This one, they made only 300 of them in 1932. I think there's only 16 known to still exist. So that was why I wrapped the handkerchief around it. It's kind of a signature look. This is a thing from 100 years ago. It's not perfect, but it's real. And it has intact its essence. It's like it in and of itself is a thing that has to be contended with. And it sort of represents exactly what I'm talking about in our art. We want to make something that's real. And it doesn't have to be pretty. It needs to be beautiful, but it needs to be real.
Yeah, listen to that sweet acoustic music, and welcome to Martin Stories. This is the official podcast of Martin Guitar, and I am your host, Jimmy Leslie. And here we believe that acoustic guitar, and specifically that rich Martin tone, is the most organic sound on the planet and the best storyteller. And speaking of storytellers, we're going to get into conversation with a great one here, Kenneth Pattengale. As one half of the folk duo, the Milk Carton Kids, Kenneth he's been at the vanguard of the modern folk music for a while now. They're on their 7th full-length studio albums called Lost Cause, Lover, Fool. You might have also seen these kids, surprisingly funny, hosting the Americana Music Awards. And they also started the LA Folk Festival, which has gone on for the past couple of years. And Kenneth is a serious collector as well. He's got a gang of great acoustics. He's got a bunch of vintage Martins, one of which became the basis for a very special signature model. So we're going to get into all of those elements, whatever else comes up in conversation, and tie them all together into the Martin story of Kenneth Pattengale. Great to see you, Kenneth.
What's up, Jimmy?
Oh, man, I'll tell you what is up is where you're sitting. That looks really good. Tell me about that. Know. What a cool looking place.
Isn't this a fun place to come to work every day?
Yeah.
Oh, man. The presentation is obviously a little bit extra, but this represents, I guess, I bought my first guitar when I was... Well, no, I don't have my first guitar. That's messed up. The first guitar that I owned that's in this room, I bought in 1996. So I guess this represents like 30 years in earnest of guitar collecting, guitar playing, career in music, dedicating my life to music. And specifically, the guitar is my main instrument. So this room represents that. We're in North Hollywood. This is my studio that I share with my bandmate Joey from the Milk Carton Kids. It's where we've made our most recent records. It's where, unless we need a bigger room, it's where I produce the stuff that I'm working on. The way I like to think about it and the way I like to put it is when we finally got this place, it's that I stopped dragging it all around from apartment to apartment to house to house. Every time I moved or every time life got reimagined or re-envisioned, my living domicile took on all of this crap. And so now I have a nice place to organize it, present it, and all the guitars are out of their cases and ready to sing.
Right on. Well, maybe we'll get you to pull a few of those out.
Yeah.
And demo. I can see you've got the handkerchief.
Yeah, I pulled a couple of the Martins.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my signature model with y'all, which I was, this is like the golden era prime example. 1932, Martin 017. This one's real rare because it's shaded back, sides, front. Martin's not known for their shade tops. But
right.
This one, they made only 300 of them in 1932. And for a while, I was obsessed with these guitars. And I have, I think there's only 16 known to still exist. I have all of their serial numbers in a spreadsheet somewhere. I kind of gave up that. But I have one here. Anyway, I liked having this, the gold standard next to my signature model that I made with y'all. I pulled them out to shoot them out, but then I realized that this one's actually in high strung, so we we can't actually compare them really, but they're both beautiful sounding instruments.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sure. High strung meaning that it's
Well,
tuned.
yeah, Nashville string
Nashville style.
tuning. So it's got the high strings of a 12 string. You know, just that really mellow tone, beautiful. But it's a different tonality than for sure than, you know, like a flat picking kind of thing. Yeah.
Sure. And it's like, it's kind of one of your things, isn't it, too?
Yeah.
High strung or capos and kind of getting that smaller box to resonate well.
Well,
Joey
one of the
holds
things,
down the...
yeah, totally. One of the things we learned early in our band is that with just two of us and two guitars and two voices, the entire thing is about like collision and about trying to smash things together so that the edges blur, and when the listener hears, they only hear one thing. And matching up a guitar like this against Joey's Gibson J45 from the 50s, one of the things that we really learned was available to us to do that was me capoing way up the fret, and he's tuned down D to D, standard, but down a whole step from usual guitars. And when we got that sonic spread, all of a sudden the two things that we were doing on the guitar, you'd have the play and the push and pull of the rhythm, but you'd also be in different ranges, and so you could actually present the guitar almost as one, like as one instrument being played with four hands, because his are down low and mine are up high.
Right.
And so, yeah, a lot of my exploration for the guitar, you know, the part about being in a duo and trying to achieve that thing I was just talking about is really all about arrangement, which instruments to pair and which sonic ranges to pair and what fits in. And no, you can't reach for this big 12 string because all of this guitar is taking up that sonic range. It's just going to make it muddy. And so those are a lot of lessons that we were learning concurrently in the Milk Carton Kids, though just with two guitars. Sorry, I came very unprofessionally to a interview and did not mute my stuff. You know what it is, I think, which maybe I'll get some brownie points in my marriage, is that I think I have all of my devices muted and everything except anything my wife does comes screaming and blaring down the pike, so much so that I don't even know how to turn it off. But if she ever watches this, which she's let's be honest, she's not interested in my guitar nerd podcast appearances.
Oh, believe me,
but
my
if she
wife
sees it,
is
like,
equally not interested in hearing all the details of the things that we're about to discuss because she's heard them, but like she really does understand it, you know. But I understand. Hey, man, you know, just like those Led Zeppelin recordings, part of the beauty of it is they're human, and we leave the mistakes. Put her on, and I'll ask her what she thinks of your tone on your new record.
It's also funny, too, I might add, she's so not interested, but half of the guitars in this room are hers, and she has so much better taste than me. So, like, all the groovy guitars in here are hers. Like, she should probably come on sometime and tell you about them.
Tell folks who your wife is.
My wife is a wonderful artist named Vera Sola. She's put out 2 records, working on her 3rd, but haunting dark music, incredible guitar player herself, and incredible writer. We're working on her 3rd one right now, which is very exciting.
Right on, my man. That's great. Okay. Well, hey, I'm going to pick that right back up to where you were, which was the arrangement of music, but the arrangement of sound that is at the heart of the Milk Carton Kids. Vocally, obviously, right? So you together, you and Joey Wren sing, practically sounds like one person. And when the guitars go, you could say the same. I mean, people have been doing that in Nashville for years, which is record one guitar strung regular and standard and another one up and instead of a 12 string. But y'all take that even a little bit to the further extreme with Joey tuning, often down a little bit, a whole step from standard, and you capoing up. So you wind up with this large, woven together sound that is clearly well thought out, according to what you just told me.
Yeah, well, and actually the biggest one is our starting off point is we realized that we favored that duo format. One of our like formative examples and formative just philosophies was the Gillian Welch, David Rawlings school of minimalist folk and what you can do in a concert, and that things can get smaller and draw the audience in rather than turning the lights up louder or turning the fog machines on or trying to get the sound louder, is that you can draw the audience nearer and closer to you. And so that was a huge jumping off point for us in learning that those four things, we could be really ambitious in what they do. The rhythm guitar can be a simple drone that everything revolves around, or it can be really bombastic or big or anything that can contextualize it in a musical way. All of a sudden there's space for, because you're not fighting a drum kit, or there's not four people that have to be on the same page rhythmically. It's a closer, in more sort of duo dance.
Interesting, right. And so when that's the case, when you're the whole band, he's typically classic Milk Carton Kids, Dreadnought, your single O. And single O being, it's a parlor guitar. Basically, correct?
Totally.
I would call it a parlor guitar. And that the roles then become him sort of setting the foundation often with the bigger box, and you with the smaller box as the color guy. And what you play sort of determines, like, if he sets the room, you're the guy putting up the wallpaper and the decorations, and however you could take that with a lick. You could take it more towards a bluegrass direction, or you could take it more towards a straight Americana folk direction or whatever. So that seems to be the roles that you're playing, and that's the guitar for you to do that on. Is that essentially how this plays out?
Yeah, and it's a funny thing, because I just went and did a solo tour in Europe for the first time, early 26. But I went over there and I needed, specifically on the front that you're talking about, I needed sort of a clean slate and a fresh palette, because these little guitars don't have the low end that feels like you can sort of sit atop them, like lushly lean into them and luxuriate in a round low end and something that like wraps you warmly like a blanket. These sort of miss that. All of their mid-range is very forward, and they sort of read like piano strings, bottom to top. And so doing those solo shows, without the support of Joey, emotionally I needed sort of a different context to think about the guitar in. As we'd be like putting a song down, I always, for the last decade and a half, have sort of been like just flitting around him like a mosquito or a little bug or something, trying to come in and out, not step on the vocals. And I've spent years stepping on the vocals and playing right through them. But also in a duo, you also get that room to do that and have this other counterpoint guitar while the vocals are doing one thing. And it's a really unique kind of music magic trick. You'd think that it would be too much information, but actually there's all this space. I have the unique ability to both be singing a part with my partner and improvising the guitar at the same time. At some point, like, my brain hit the curb and like split in two and was able to do both of those things. But it's really a fascinating musical prospect, because it's really pure improvisation and like connection to a performance of a song in real time, in a way that, like, in lots of other bands, there's not room for it, because you really have to play your role, or you have to make 5 instruments sound as one, and people need to be really conscious of what everybody else is doing and how it fits together, whereas we have a little more latitude there. And that's a lot to do with just the fundamental nature of these guitars, because there's so little low end, because the mid-range punches in such a way. We were really delivered there. So much so that even in our early records, we listed the guitars as band members, We always thought of it as a 4-person band. Me, Joey, the 015, and the J45.
Right. And it was a very specific, your main one is a very specific one, and it's got a very specific story. So first of all, I'm really curious if you could just recount that story for me. I know you were interested in the single O, and maybe before Joey, maybe not, but like the glories of it, you have pretty well, I think, just described.
Yeah, it was.
The
I bought
balance and
that
all that.
guitar just before him, and I don't know how psychedelic your life is, and I mean that in the
It's very psychedelic.
in the literal sense. Great, but when I look back on it, the way that the universe started ordering itself and shifting itself around, all of these things kind of came together in a way that's, not by accident. And I remember my 015 showed up in 09, and it was about 6 months before Joey showed up in my life. And it's no coincidence that those happened at the same time.
Quite cosmic.
Yeah.
Yes. And so how did this show up then?
Well, I remember the first one I ever saw. I went to, that's funny. The first time I ever went to Nashville, which was in 06, somebody would have to fact check that. Oh, maybe 07. If I'm remembering the circumstances right, I know some things to be true, which is that I had just come back from Mexico on a cruise and brought the swine flu to America, H1N1. I was patient 0.
No, man.
Yeah, and I think it was my 25th birthday, which would make it 07, but it could have been 24 or 26. And so with the swine flu, my girlfriend at the time, her aunt was a talent booker, but like not like booking bands into venues, but like booking clowns into kids' birthday parties.
Yeah.
But she was on the cruise with us, and I was going halfway across the world, or across the country, and she said, "Well, I can get you some gigs in Alabama, where I live." And so she had booked me into Swampers, which sounds like a cool venue, but it was actually the hotel bar at the Marriott in Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
Right, because Muscle Shoals has got the Swampers, and they've been known to pick a song or two.
Exactly. But so I get up there dying of the swine flu, thinking, how am I going to do this? And I was being paid, but mostly I was being given this free room at the Marriott. And so I just laid dying on my 25th birthday because it was a 3-night stand at Swampers, just solo, because it was a horrible gig. All of this to say, I'm there and I somehow get through the gig and I do the thing and whatever. And from there, because I was in the area, I rented a car and I drove up to Nashville. And that was the first time I ever went to Nashville, Tennessee. And I went to the Country Music Hall of Fame. And in the exhibit, there was a Martin 015 that was owned and played by Kitty Wells. And it was the most beautiful guitar I'd ever seen. And I had no idea that Martin, which I had been coveting my entire youth and career as a guitar player. I loved those guitars so much, and always my first one was a composite dreadnought that was built in the 90s, which is somewhere back there I can pull out and grab. But I loved the sound of that, but also when I'd go to Guitar Center and play that, of course I'd go in the vintage room and there would be the Eric Clapton unplugged model, and then there would be all these other cool guitars that I didn't know about and was overwhelmed by, but they sounded woody and they sounded good, but they also were $3,000, and I didn't have $3,000. I had the $700 that could buy that composite dreadnought. Anyway, walking through the Country Music Hall of Fame, I saw that guitar of Kitty Wells, and I just had no idea that they even made guitars that size. And I took a picture of it. It enamored me. And I guess if I'm doing the math, if that was 07, it took 2.5 years for me to find one and bring it into my life. But it was on eBay. It was like
eBay. Yeah.
$1,100 or something, or maybe $800, $1,100 probably. And it was just a little old lady in Arizona selling a guitar on eBay. And it showed up. I mean, it was like, it had one of them like cloth cases from the 50s, and it was in bubble wrap, but very this guitar should not have been sent to me this way and like made it. But I remember it showed up a day. full Kenneth Pattengale solo career, I was shooting content. I was way ahead of my time. I was shooting content in 2007.
You were shooting content back then?
Yeah, my friend who went to film school at USC, he came over to my parents' house. We're in our mid-20s, late 20s, by the way, where I'm living at my parents' house. But he did it like a whole movie set. He blacked out the house and lit all this stuff, and I had a 5-person band and was like making a multi-track recording in my parents' living room with multiple cameras also. And we were recording that day, and I remember it was the day that the guitar showed up from Arizona off of eBay. And we took it out.
Did you do an unboxing?
No, we didn't have the presence of mind, though I think my brother was there taking candid pictures, and I think he might have a picture of the moment that I like opened it up and saw it the first time, because also my band, there were 4 of us, upright bass, an accordion, a pedal steel player, and a fiddle player. We all sort of gathered around to see this beautiful guitar. And it was funny, though, because also when I think about it, it was really different because I was in the moment that I met the guitar. I was in the safety of my band and this project that I had been working on. And it really was like a new species showed up. And we sort of like looked at it. What is that?
Yes.
Because these things, like all of them have different stories, but I think all of them have different souls too, and have different like personalities and identities. They kind of look like people. I don't know. Yeah.
You look very natural sitting between these 2 guitars. And, maybe that's your look.
Totally.
Well. Yes. Right on. So this guitar shows up. It comes in it's like, Mana from Heaven from eBay. And everybody looks at this alien little guitar. And that represents the turning point in your whole career, I guess, or the jumping off point into the guy we know now.
Yeah, totally. Because also I didn't like incorporate that guitar into my work until Joey showed up. It was like it sat there waiting. And I think the original one, it's here. Let me pull it down.
Okay.
This original one, because also, well, it's got the funny thing is I could probably tell from other elements, but, oh no, this is not the original one. This is another 30. I've collected these things over the years too.
How many of them do you have that are vintage single Martins? Probably, maybe going on 6, 7, 10.
Yeah, somewhere there.
Right on. But the one that is the one you broadcast this. It's like it's serial number 1446667.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
But it's funny though. I don't know where she is.
No,
she's probably in the other room. That said, no disrespect to that guitar, but what I was going to show you is that even that guitar I don't play anymore because at a certain point Joey and I explored adding other musicians to the mix, and we made a record with a band and we went out and toured them. And during that tour, it was going to make a lot more sense for me to plug in, and I just couldn't put a pickup in 1446667. I just couldn't do it. So I had a backup.
I understand.
Yeah, and I put it in that one. And then all of a sudden, after a year on the road, that guitar intonated better and played more easily. And then after the band left, the funny thing was that the most lasting element of our experiment with the band is that that's where we met our sound engineer, who still travels with us and works with us. And the big difference was that for about 1,500 shows, there would be just one microphone right here. And the way that we would mix our band would be either I'd play a little louder, I'd play a little softer, or sometimes I'd like get the guitar right up here, or I'd move away. And after that many shows, and then also graduating into my late 30s in this body, things started to hurt. And I realized a big component was if at work every night for an hour and a half, I would hold myself in a specific kind of tension. It wasn't a good thing for me. And so after we met our sound engineer, he figured out a way we now put wireless packs in each of our guitars, and I can play in a neutral position and give my body a break. And he's able to mix the guitar sounds with, we still sing on one mic, but he puts it all together in a way that sounds a little more three-dimensional, a little more lush than that main thing, but also doesn't compromise everything that we benefit from just with singing on one microphone and like coming together that way. But it really gave my body a break, and it also meant we met this other person who we consider to be kind of the third member of our band, who in any scenario, because he's in control of it, can make it sound like us, even including if we get to an outdoor festival and it's a complete nightmare and we don't have time. Me and Joey can sing on separate mics, and if we listen to playback, he knows exactly how we blend ourselves when we're on one mic. He knows what it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to sound, and we had never met anybody before like that. But so ever since then, I've stayed with that backup guitar because it's the one that has electronics in it. And so sadly, 1, 4, 4, 6, 6, 7 probably feels like an old like racehorse out to pasture, just cruising around eating hay for the rest of its time.
And you never came up with a different name for it, huh? It's almost like it sounds like prisoner number or something.
Yeah. Totally. I love guitars that have names. Yeah. I just feel like I'm so bad at naming things that I would give it the wrong name. Boy, this guitar sounds really good. This one, I'll be embarrassed because I won't forget his name, but this was a fan of our band. Well, he sold it to me, but he insisted on selling it to me for like a completely ridiculous price compared to what it's worth. Because this one's also 1932. They were. Well,
can we hear it?
They're very close together.
Let's get a quick little listen. Would you play a little bit for us?
This one has the bar frets too. It intonates like a guitar from the 30s. Yeah, it was up there, so it wasn't in tune, but
it almost shouldn't be.
Right. It has a nice resonance, though. So.
It does. So tell me, since most of us don't get to play guitars from the 30s,
yeah,
it sounds lovely. I mean, how does it feel? Can you explain to me what that vintage guitar feels like in right now in your hand against your body and everything?
Yeah, the big thing is that this wood has been held together in this shape for close to 100 years, and has been, in its environment. Holding this shape and itself both simultaneously drying out and then just breathing together for 100 years. And so it's incredibly light. It feels very breathy. And when you play it, a lot of new guitars will feel like constricted or what would the right adjective be? A little stuffed up or like that it's ready to sing, whereas this thing is like very confident. It knows its shape, it knows what it is, and it just is spilling its voice out. I should use this guitar more. It sounds so great. But you can also hear some nice vintage guitar rattles. You know, it reminds me of, I spent a little time at Friar Park, George Harrison's studio in England last year or 2 years ago, and was lucky enough to record a little music with all of George's guitar collection. And there's one Gibson J160 there that is the only guitar that's on every Beatles record ever made. And if you,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, and if you play it, it has this sort of like compressed, jangly sound that if you were in the Milk Carton Kids, you'd strum it and it like wouldn't be useful for your band because it would lack the low end and it wouldn't really sustain. But when you listen to all those Beatles records, it's exactly the sound that's needed to cut through and hold down all of the rhythm. And I was just reminded of it just picking through this, the way this E string falls apart and rattles a little.
Yes.
feels kind of thin, but it would also be great for a rhythm thing. Anyway, yeah, infinite possibilities, infinite kind of stuff.
Well, that's a really cool story. And speaking of that E string, the rattle you're speaking of, is that not the reason for the famous Pattengale handkerchief?
Oh, yeah, in fact, it is. And let's see, I don't have a capo.
You've got
near
one
me.
on the guitar, right? Oh, yeah, the capo is the...
The capo was the issue. I wonder if it'll do it on this old 30s.
Right, can we hear
one.
the guitar of that one maybe with the capo and without the capo and the
Yeah.
handkerchief? What's the difference?
This one I did tune, but this guitar, yeah, if you get the capo, well, this will sound real nice with the capo. Anyway, this, the other one, 144-667, if you capoed 4 or above, something would happen and these strings would press against the frets and there'd be a little buzz up there. And so that was why I wrapped the handkerchief around it. And now, of course, on that backup guitar, it doesn't happen, but it's kind of a signature look, so I keep it all the same.
Right, right.
But these guitars, they really do sound like a different thing when they're way up here.
Wow, listen to that.
And there is a lot of tuning in my band also, because if you get up this high, you have to make some adjustments so that everything works, which you can start
We understand.
to
We understand. We tune because we care. Right? Yes. So could you play a little signature New York stars, younger year, something that folks might recognize?
Yeah. Well, with that said, it's so funny without the bottom half.
Yeah, I guess, right?
I mean, this is my part on New York. But then often, because he's playing it, I'll just be picking. You said it just right. I never stay long enough to fight. I just run away. And it's you, my love. It's you I'm running from. And then I start soloing. You were mistaken. You are to blame. Lately I've taken to getting my own way. Yes, it's you, my love. It's you I'm running from. Happy in New York. Send for me when you want more. Happy in New York. Without you like before. Yeah, it goes on from there. Oh, it's fun to do that without Joey.
Hey, it sounds so interesting. Hey, it's so cool to hear you do something that's so woven together with him, and just hear the one part of it. It's also so interesting to see you sing and play.
Yeah.
As if there's nothing to that. There surely is to sing and play for anybody, but to play all the little connective tissue lines that you do and keep your head on your voice, that's a whole other discipline, isn't it?
Yeah, and we're about 2,500 shows in now, and so a lot of it is just full muscle memory, like in the diaphragm, in the hands, in the brain. It's that whole bit is a really interesting thing, just emotionally, even psychically, when you're playing music, because this is the way that you're actually physically connected to the thing. But when your brain and body are capable of doing it on different planes, oftentimes, I always think about, in one of Paul Simon's memoirs, he writes about, I think, playing in Tel Aviv for the first time, and there were 600,000 people there. And he said during the entire concert, all he was doing was, like, behind the crowd of 600,000, there were like some new condos built or something. And he said that at that point he was so disconnected with his music that the only memory of that show he has is looking at those condos and wondering how much they cost. I think that's the right anecdote, or maybe I'm projecting onto it, but it was so shocking to me that somebody who is maybe the best to ever do it would be able to stand and give a professional performance and totally not be there. It's such an interesting, and in that case, a really sad thing. But I think if I remember that chapter in the book, that was one of his wake-up calls for finding a way to reconnect to his music, or just to observe how disconnected he was from it, and that it rang some alarm bells for him, something like that. And that's been an interesting journey for me, individually, emotionally, with my band also, is that kind of thing. You know, a lot of the early years we spent very ambitious on stage, trying to impress the audience and trying to grow our fan base. And for me, lots of times it was marked by trying to succeed on the guitar or trying to impress on the guitar. And over time, I've come to not regret those years, but to understand how unimportant that element was in performance and in connecting to an audience. It was actually that experience with some kind of exercise in personal ego that actually had no place in our band and was not serving me as a musician or as a performer, and it was actually getting in the way of me connecting to my body and my artistic expression, and also was getting in the way, ironically getting in the way of me connecting to the audience, trying to impress them in a way, or trying to meet expectations or exceed expectations. And as that relationship with myself has changed and matured, or maybe just taken on different values, I find that it serves me better and serves them better, serves the music better. But it's interesting all the different phases that has gone through and is still going through. And again, it's as you can imagine, that whole experience is a much different thing when I do what I just did versus if your role on stage is just to do this and sing your song. There's there's different factors there that kind of change the equation.
Man, there's so many things I could. Yes. Yes. Interesting that you draw the correlation to, first of all, to Paul Simon, because oftentimes, I mean, even if I'm trying to describe who the Milk Carton Kids are to somebody that doesn't know, I'll say, well, they're kind of a modern Simon and Garfunkel, except imagine if one of them was playing lead guitar and the other was playing rhythm, and you're the color man in that scenario. So it relays on that level. And then the fact, of course, that there's some of the stuff that you're referring to and the kind of guitar playing that you're referring to, which a lot of people treasure, and that your first kind of breakout was maybe the younger years, right? Mm-hmm. There you were in your younger years singing a song called Younger Years and playing some of the stuff that you became so famous for playing. And I would say that while I'll hear you on that, and it's fantastic, everybody goes through that journey of trying to prove themselves and trying to impress people, to maturing, hopefully, and doing it more for yourself. But I believe that you did impress people and make quite a connection with a lot of guitar players by playing that stuff. So I wouldn't surely dismiss it as anything to regret. And then it led to having a lot of the people that are going to listen to this and watch this episode, and to the guitar to the point that you're playing there, then you wind up getting known as this killer guitar player, sort of very much in a David Rawlings kind of a context, I would say, and getting to do a signature model Martin out of it. That was
bonkers.
Tell me about it. So you get known as this. There's this crowd of people coming to see you play, and you're recording, I think, with the serial number guitar, we'll call it. right?
Yeah.
That's the one, if people want to know what that sounds like, all those early records are that, correct? And then you wind up getting the signature. Please tell me about the signature and the process of doing that, and how somebody that's so into vintage guitars and has a wall of them and all of these options to choose from then is able to do a modern version of it and try to achieve that. How do you achieve that?
Totally. Well, it was a real coming to terms with how complex we are as human beings, actually, in the end. How do I keep this story short? Well, first, if you went back to the 13-year-old me and told him that he'd have a Martin signature model guitar, that person would stand up and walk out of the room and tell you to go fuck right off. So that's nice, and that feels extra special and validating. And I've never been a guitar player who's ever sat down and learned anything. I've only ever expressed, and mostly sort of like fallen on my face, or just the thing that I hear in my head or the thing that I want to achieve, I go to try to do it on the guitar and it doesn't come out like that. And so then I go to do it again, and then it comes out the same way. I go, well, maybe the thing in my head's wrong. Maybe that's what I should be following. More than that, me and Joey, like I said, we're about 2,500 shows in. The real thing is that when you look back, the entire experience has been an exercise in just trying to connect to each other and just trying to connect to an audience. And that's not like a perfect, easy thing. Human beings aren't built to play a scale perfectly. If you want to play a scale perfectly, you better be practicing it all the time. And so this thing where we're both self-taught guitar players and we're writing songs and we're trying to express ourselves, when that all collides, that's like sometimes not the thing that you intended. Sometimes that's a surprise. And so and the reason I bring it up is that that's sort of been now this 15 years of like having a guitar voice, and a guitar voice that is literally identified and hitched to like a model of guitar, is that all of those things that I prefer and all of those things that I play or the ways that I express myself can be sort of like packaged in a way that people understand to be a flavor or a style or an aesthetic. But that's a really funny thing to come to terms with, because a lot of the things that define me as a player are often like I'm really ambitious on stage and I play a lot of wrong notes and I play very messily, and I'll really go for it and like put as much on our cart as our cart can hold before it breaks. And sometimes it breaks on stage, like whatever. But a lot of that is not like intentional and is not thought out and is not pretty. A big value in our band, especially with songwriting, but I think it also extended to recording and just who we are, is that me and Joey's shared like common artistic goal is that we want to put things that feel beautiful and feel truthful on the plate. That's all we're after. And sometimes beautiful can be really dissonant and can be ugly or could be mangled or could, that doesn't sacrifice its beauty. It doesn't have to be pretty per se, but it has to be beautiful, which means it has to be unique and it has to be rare and it has to feel real. Well, and so lots of times that comes down to me just being real on stage and letting things be what they are. And in that moment, one of the most important things actually holding it all together was an instrument. Well, this is a new one and a freak, which I can tell you about. But an instrument like this, when you really lean on that, this is a thing from 100 years ago. It's not perfect, but it's real. And it has intact its essence. It's like it in and of itself is a thing that has to be contended with. And it sort of represents exactly what I'm talking about in our art. We want to make something that's real. And it doesn't have to be pretty. It needs to be beautiful, but it needs to be real. And so when it came time to do the signature model, what I really wanted to do was not this guitar, because this is the rare one, but that 015 from 54, the 144667, that guitar when it was new was literally the cheapest Martin that could be purchased from the factory. It was like a working man's guitar. It's anything with any kind of rosette or any kind of inlay, whatever, the price starts going up pretty quickly. That guitar has no binding. It's just mahogany glued together.
Right. Right. It's pretty, but it sure ain't style 45 or something, right?
Yeah, totally. And so in the modern contemporary Martin line, there's nothing like that. I mean, when you get to that level, it means that they're composite woods or they're being assembled in Korea or in Mexico. You know, like the way to get down to that affordable working man's price is not by just taking features away. It's by dipping into the spoils of, you know, modern consumerism and capitalism. And you can get a $600 guitar, but like a robot's putting it together and it's plywood or, you know, whatever it is. It's not a piece of mahogany with craftsmanship from the 1950s and the whole deal. It's a different kind of thing. And so the guitar that I wanted to make, my goal was to have it built in America at Martin, to use real woods, and to take away any kind of features that would make it more expensive, and just to make what is the modern version of a guitar that availing ourselves to craftsmanship and materials, like what can we do? And it was a really hard problem to solve.
How'd you solve it?
Well, it was very interesting because that guitar, when you put it together, at a minimum, it's gonna be about $3,000, and that to me is not an affordable and accessible guitar. And even this one where we got is not, you know, there's still people who in their life and in their experience can't budget $2,200 for a guitar. That's not available to them. And there's other incredible instruments, including ones that Martin makes. This is still a luxury item on that front. That said, I wanted to do that. It was not possible. For my model, I partnered with George Gruen in Nashville. And so we sell my models exclusively through George. All as a part of a way the finances work. It's a little easier for George to help underwrite and make a little bit of the profit than to do it with Martin completely in-house. And so part of that was also getting George on board with the design and it being a guitar that he was willing to invest in and he would think would connect to my audience and would sell well. And so he wanted something more special than that. You know, George designed some guitars himself. He has the Quadruplo model that they sell at Gruen, which you'd be hard pressed to find in many other places, but he really loves it. And I swear by it also. It's between a Triple O and a Dreadnought. Has this
I've got one. Sure.
Yeah. Incredible.
I love it. Yeah.
But George is interested in sort of like bigger, you know, he wanted to find the right thing. And actually we reached a point where he and I were kind of at, a standstill, and I didn't really know what to do. And one day Fred from Martin called me up, and it was just a weird like curveball of an idea. He said, I have a weird idea, which is we've been making these torrefied spruce guitars where the torrefication process, as probably many of the podcast listeners will know, is essentially a process to age new wood so that it molecularly resembles more of the, 100-year-old guitars. I think it's basically you put them in an oven and bake them a bit.
Yeah, it's heat-based torrefication, sure,
yeah.
Of course.
And Fred said, hey, we've got all of these torrefied tops, which are usually an add-on to any guitar that's being built. I think it's $1,500, $1,700 if you want a torrefied top on the guitar. And he said, but there's a bunch of rejected pieces that are totally like physically fundamentally sound and would pass any kind of like quality inspection at Martin, except during the torrefication process, they were blemished by the heat. And so there's just unsightly sort of dark stains on them. And he said, I know that you and George are hung up on your guitar design, and I know that you really want mahogany because it's what you're associated with. And he said, I'll tell you what, this pile of wood, which otherwise gets chucked in the dumpster at Martin, we can stain it dark to look mahogany, but you could put brand new torrefied spruce tops on the guitar, and Martin will give them to you for free. And so
Wow.
I was able to add a torrefied Adirondack spruce top to my guitar for no additional charge, the way that any other Martin guitar would be built. And so all of a sudden, me and George had a new product that Martin otherwise wouldn't make that looks like my guitar, but it has a different tonal quality. It's the Adirondack spruce, a little more overtones, a little lighter, a little more balanced, a little more modern even. But it was in my...
Technically an upgrade. I mean, technically, according to the catalog and everything, that would go style 18, I think, right?
Yeah, a huge upgrade. I don't know if it would change the style. It could possibly change the style.
Well, it's one of the elements.
Yeah, we ended up calling it the Pattengale Special. So there's not a 15 or an 18 or anything. We just called it something different. So it's a Pattengale. It's obviously still the O shape. But so yeah, a huge upgrade. And all of a sudden, I've got a guitar that I don't have to mark up because we got the top for free, but actually it's then becomes the least expensive torrefied Martin guitar available, built in America.
I see.
It's a really
Very
special
cool.
guitar that if you're interested in that shape. It was really important to me that we didn't put my signature on it, because I think it's such an interesting and useful and different and good guitar that if somebody wants to play this and they want to play it professionally and they don't know who I am or don't like how I play or just don't want a guitar that has somebody else's signature on it, it was important to me that we put the signature inside and that you know what the model is, but that it's a brand new model of Martin guitar that's not actually offered off of their line, and it's also, I think, the least expensive Martin guitar built in America that you can purchase. Again, because of that upgrade. That's really cool how
you were pull that together right on Fred and George and you like that. Now, would you be so kind as to maybe show the mahogany and can we see that a little bit up close, one to the other?
Well, this is the torrefied spruce. And this is the mahogany from 100 years ago. This one, I'll remind you, has the shade top going. Although I can pull that other 32.
Yeah, let's see the other two, because the shade top is definitely a thing.
Yeah. This is the mahogany over here from 100 years ago. And this is the stained spruce. And I also left a pick guard off of it. Kitty Wells's did not have a pick guard, that first one that I saw.
Right,
and also I figured
if
somebody really needed a pick guard, you could just glue one of them suckers on there. That's no problem. I think George would give it to you and glue it on for free even, if you got it and wanted.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting to see. So now, but you've got the signature is tuned high, you said, so that it's not, we can't really do an apples to apples.
We can't do an apples to apples here. We'll have to do another one. Yeah.
Will you play the high strung special though? Even so, because it's really neat just to hear a guitar tuned like that. It's not something people hear every day.
Yeah, totally. And it's a beautiful sound.
There you go. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful guitar.
That's gorgeous. And interesting to hear just what you play on it too. Just some of that lonesome cowboy mixed with a little Spanish.
Yeah, totally.
Feel in there as
And
well.
It's funny you say that too, because I feel like guitars bring a different thing out of everyone, and this one does have like a real mix of everything you just said. Because also, if I pick up a nylon guitar, so much more of the Spanish influence will come out than when I'm playing on a steel string. But this is somewhere in between.
Interesting. And it's great you bring up the nylon string, because that's been your secret weapon as well. Well, you'll just take the same guitar and throw nylon strings on it.
Yeah.
You know? And then the new record has some classic duo songs, and it also has some where they're fleshed out with other instruments. And sometimes I'm always wondering what you've put in there.
Yeah.
Like for example, on the new record, there's, well, first of all, I'll bring up a couple things. A Friend Like You is such a great title.
Thank you.
For a duo. and it kind of fleshes out. It's the centerpiece of the record. It's like 6 minutes long. I'm curious, you hear that high stuff, is that nylon one, or is that the high strung? It almost mandolin-y sounding once in a while? Is that the band, like what's going on in there?
Let's see. This will be satisfying, I think, in the end.
Okay.
That is this, just because Gibson gets all of the credit always, that is this 1942
it is a mandolin.
Martin Style a vintage Martin Mando.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, great instrument.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so there you go. No wonder it can get a little confusing, because you will play the steel string high strung, you will play the nylon string on your what would be a steel string guitar, and you've got the actual mandolin there, and you can play it.
Yeah.
tuning in fourths and getting around in the mandolin is okay to yourself?
Yeah, I got there. Well, my first instrument was the cello. I started in 1986,
right. Okay.
and that's tuned in fifths also. And so there's a part of my brain that if I can...
That's right, fifths. Sorry.
Yeah, if I can put the horse blinders on for a second and let go of what was happening, it sort of falls in there. And then, of course, when you're working on a song, you can figure something out and teach yourself the shapes, like dismantle the connections.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what year was that mandolin, did you say?
1942. Yeah.
Right. Interesting that you've got that and that it's a Martin one.
Yeah.
How about in terms of your favorite Martin tones that you've ever put down on record? Would you cite a few of them so that people can say, or maybe even just what we were just talking about, like quintessential Pattengale sound? Where's the nylon string? Where's the high string? Give us some of your favorite moments that maybe people can identify if they want to hear them.
Well, the big ones, I would go, you called it out. You called out Younger Years, although that's got a great, just my classic signature sound on it. But I would say Monterey, the title track from our third record. Mm-hmm. That entire record, which I engineered entirely myself, but the big difference is that we recorded it on the road versus in the studio. And so I took a lot of care to mic up the concert halls that we were playing in during sound check. And so there's a lot of that sonic information in the recordings that also really brings the guitar to life. I would say Monterey from the album Monterey is the classic example. If you go to our band record, All the Things That I Did and All the Things That I Didn't Do, both You Break My Heart and the track All the Things, the main guitar is my 015 but with nylon strings on them. That's the main guitar you'll hear on both of those, and it's such a different tone, but such a wonderful tone. The really cool thing about taking these old guitars and putting the Diodario ball end nylon strings on them is that if you went out and tried to play them in a show, it might feel sort of thin and not have all of the energy you want to like hold down the show. But if you do that and you put a microphone in front of it and you're adding it to any recording, all of a sudden it's like the secret sauce that can bring any recording together. It's really interesting and really cool because it's not the traditional body that would bring those strings to life.
Right.
The high strung, I think there's one on the new record. Ribbon.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ribbon.
second to last song is
Okay.
one of the 015s with the high strung guitars on it, and it has this really the way that I performed it and we mixed it in. It has this sort of like ethereal bell like quality that's very married to the rhythm. It's not doing like counterpoint or calling itself out as a voice, but it puts this shimmer over the track in a way that's not typical and is really, really cool.
I don't know why you called it ribbon, but do you use ribbon microphones? You're the producer of the record, right?
There's a lot of ribbon microphones. That one actually is a song written by a wonderful songwriter, our friend named Maya DeVitri. I think there's an extra pressure put on writers today to write all of their own material, which I'm in a band that exists because of its own material, and that's important. But also, for a song that like holds down the emotional space that a song like Maya wrote, Ribbon does, we could really spend blood, sweat, and tears writing a song that probably won't be as good as her song. So why don't we just cut that and see if it fits in? And we did that with hers, and we did that with a Willie Watson song called Sad Songs. Sad songs,
which is funny because you write so many sad songs.
We write,
and there's a song called Sad Songs, and it's truthfully not that sad. Musically, it's kind of one of the more upbeat songs on the record, right?
Yeah.
Right on.
All funny coincidences for sure.
Well, and you have this community, and you tapped into the community very heavily to produce the Los Angeles Folk Festival for a couple of years. A lot of vital new singer-songwriter talents and friends that you wanted to showcase, literally.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak about that for a minute? What that is that?
Oh, it was amazing.
How has that informed your modern landscape,
We did it for 2 years, and we'll do it again. We had to take a break just because of how much work it is and how much space it takes up. But the second year we had Emmylou Harris as a headliner, and the way to encapsulate the entire experience is that during that festival, Emmy sat side stage and watched every single act that we had programmed before she then came on and did the final set of the night. And she kept turning to me and Joey and telling us how important it was that we had put on the show, because she was witnessing music she had never seen. She was witnessing the audience connect to it. And I think, honestly, it reminded her of sort of those early days when she and Graham would connect to an audience in Washington, D.C. and the Eastern Seaboard, and what music meant in the room, in between people, and what was happening, like, alchemically. There was something that, like, not until I heard it through her voice saying it back to me did I realize that we had achieved it. We were focused on just all of the details and, honestly, just trying to make everything add up so that it made sense, that it was really hard in the moment to see that we had provided the fundamental service of making a safe space for an audience to come be connected to a genuine musical community. And so there's a lot of work, really rewarding. We had to take a break this year. I'm sure that we'll do it in the future.
I see. Right. Wow. Well, that's a great story to recount. I mean, Emmylou Harris, I know that you've established it. Well, first of all, you're showcasing a lot of young talents, and that's always necessary. But then to be embraced by legends, I know Crosby was a fan, and that you played his 12-string, and you've got one, and that you got to play with Robert Plant, of which is crazy. Talk about some of those experiences and being embraced by these legends as you have been.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about in the context of the signature model. Is I remember the night where it really hit home was we did this Coen Brothers concert that was promoting their film. I won't remember the film now. How embarrassing. The concert was called Another Day, Another Time, and it was I'm blanking on. The Oscar Isaac plays the folk musician. It was a great film, and I just can't pull the title at the moment.
Okay.
Inside Llewyn Davis. There it is.
Okay. There he
But
is.
we were doing this all-star concert. We were some of the newcomers, but it was, Joan Baez and Bob Newirth and Jack White and the Avett Brothers and Gil and Dave and, all these incredible people coming together doing a folk music concert in New York City that sort of was in the spirit of the great tradition and what the movie was about. And of course, in that tradition, it's at Town Hall. And so we get there and we do the sound check and we go downstairs, and Town Hall's an old theater, sort of in the old style. And there's not a lot of dressing room area. And there's not a lot of space. And there's 60 people performing on this show. And so I'll never forget, I was sitting down there just, I think, waiting for catering to go up for dinner. And at the end of the hallway appears Patti Smith. I go, holy shit, that's Patti Smith. And she I clock her as she's taking a slow walk down the hallway. And it feels like she's sort of looking for a door with her name on it to just get some private space and whatever.
Yeah.
And she gets to the end of the hall and realizes there is no door. And so she walks back to the seat next to me, sits down, looks me in the eye and says, "Hi, I'm Patti," and puts her hand out. And I'm like, I know who you are. But it was this moment where, that in and of itself is sort of a psychedelic experience also. And I had enough of a presence of mind to in that moment understand, one, what a fanboy I was and the moment that I was having, but also that when Patti Smith does that and sits down and extends her hand, she's looking at me as a colleague and nothing else, as that I do the thing that she does and that she has done in a way that we've all witnessed how it changed the course of musical history, what it does. And now in my career, I've had that experience. Like you said, I got to record a song with Joan Baez. I got to go on tour with Robert Plant. Yeah, Croz was a friend and a fan, as was Graham Nash. In the back of the Ryman, Stephen Stills cornered me and said, "You flat pick like a motherfucker." That's like I've had personal... professional relationships with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. That's like the thing about the signature guitar. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But it's all happened in the momentum and the stride of having a musical career, which can be a scary and a lonely thing sometimes. And so to have it bolstered by the music history that is shared by the masses is really... It's not that it's validating in an ego way. It's a reminder during dark times that that what I do also is valued in that way by our culture, by our society, and that I should be really proud of that. Because it's sometimes hard to see the forest from the trees when you're in the daily grind of life and you're doing everything you can to try to ensure that you continue to have a career and all of that. It's a really nice reminder that I'm a part of it. And not everybody's so lucky.
Amen to that. I think we're getting there. I think I want to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
Out of all of that, do you have a Martin-centric favorite memory? Story?
A Martin-centric...
Did you ever sit down with Crosby or Stills and geek out on their, D40? Do you have a Martin-centric memory that's the favorite, whether it has to do with anybody else or not?
Well, the one you would have to do the fact check, and it'll just go on topic with all of the talk of Gil and Dave. But at that same show that Patti Smith sat down and said hello, Gillian was playing, I don't remember whose Martin it was, but she was enamored with it. She had just acquired this Martin that I think was worth $400,000 or something, and she was telling me who the artist was that owned it, which I won't remember now. And that guitar sounded like angels had descended from some other realm. and brought
Wow.
music with them in a way you didn't know it existed. And of course, the funny thing, I know we're on a Martin podcast, and I know that the entire thing is about the instrument, so I'll be a typical me, which is always a contrarian, which is, it was such a beautiful instrument that she had, and I got to hear it up close and in the flesh, and Gillian herself was like excited by it and stoked to share it with people. Just that experience of having a new instrument, especially that's part of the lineage and the history, is such a special thing. Of course, Gillian Welch has one of the greatest right hands in all of musical history. It doesn't matter what guitar she plays, it would sound like that. That's one of the greatest to actually do the thing. And so, there's both that guitar and the whole thing about it. But, all of this stuff these are tools, and they're tools that magnify and refract people's humanity and musicality and their souls and their essence. And if they weren't a guitar that it was coming through, maybe it wouldn't be so pretty, and maybe it wouldn't connect right. And so no disrespect to any of these things, but they're all just in the context of serving, this essence that we're trying to distill and trying to connect to and trying to understand. And that's a human thing, and that's a invisible thing. And it's invisible, but I like to think that it carries in sound waves, and that those vibrations are actually the key to life and the key to happiness and the key to experience. And that's what we're all after. And boy, these guitars can really resonate and make a pretty tone and can serve up that vibration. But I think it's the human experience that's doing all the connecting.
Amen to that. Well, I don't know where to go from there. That's the amen, I think, right?
Right on.
I think that's the hallelujah moment, man. Well, it's sure been amazing talking to you. Would you mind playing a little more guitar? Just whatever strikes you right here in this moment. What's flowing through your molecules at the moment?
I bet this. Riding around with the windows down. What a lonely view. Sometimes I'm tough, sometimes I'm not enough. Sometimes I think of you. Passenger princess, singing from the heart. Show me who I am. Are you one of the angels tearing me apart? I wanna understand, but I can't tell myself the truth. It's hard enough playing it cool. My mind ain't tough. It's a sad but true. I'm your lost cause, lover, fool.
Man, that's just so beautiful. Keep it going, Kenneth. Keep going, buddy. Everybody, that's the title track from the new Milk Carton Kids record. It's just beautiful. We learned so much today. I hope you all have enjoyed this as much as I have. This is Martin Stories, the official podcast of Martin Guitar. This is Kenneth Pattengale. Find him online. Everybody, please like, please subscribe. Tell your friends to tune in. We're going to be doing this every 2 weeks. The podcast is produced by Elizabeth Evans Media. Thank you so much, Kenneth Pattengale. We appreciate you endlessly.
Right on. Thanks, Jimmy. It's always great to talk to you. Love to doing it.
Right on. All right.